Welcome to the Wellness Hub podcast, a show dedicated to uncovering the future of healthy living. Each week, we aim to bring you content that supports your personal health journey through insightful conversations with amazing guests. We explore various topics ranging from healthy eating, technology, fitness, mindfulness, and more. Now let's join our host, Drew Munro, co-founder and CEO of UpMeals, a Vancouver-based food tech startup on a mission to make healthy meals accessible through technology.
Hello and welcome to episode 21 of the Wellness Hub. As always, we're thrilled to have you with us for yet another edition of Wellness Wednesday. Every single week, we're hosting amazing guests discussing important topics ranging from entrepreneurship and technology to health, wellness, fitness, and mindfulness. And as always, we hope you find these conversations valuable and insightful on your own wellness journeys. Our special guest tonight has over 15 years experience in innovation and technology, launching successful e-commerce and technology startups. You're going to want to stay tuned and maybe grab something to take some notes, because tonight's conversation is going to bring you some high value insights on really what it takes to grow and scale your startup, how to focus on research, and how data is the missing ingredient to your company's success. We're also going to talk about how plant-based products are transforming the future of food, why vegan and plant-based lifestyles are here to stay, and much, much more. Our special guest tonight is the CEO and co-founder of Veggie, set to be the largest online retailer of vegan and plant-based goods. Veggie is a rapidly growing digital vegan marketplace on a mission to increase accessibility to vegan products and enable people to take better care of themselves and the planet. We're so excited for our guest to shed light tonight on how plant-based products will soon be finding their way into all of our pantries. You won't want to miss this important conversation as we explore how data and technology can be leveraged to scale your business, the importance of switching to a plant-based lifestyle, and how the global food industry is evolving. So please sit back, relax, get ready for an important, exciting conversation. And as always, as we discuss these important topics, please a reminder, comment with your questions, engage with us on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram, wherever you're watching. We'll be answering audience questions all throughout the show tonight. So without further ado, please welcome our special guest this evening, the CEO of Vejii, Kory Zelickson. Kory, welcome to the Wellness Hub.
Thanks for having me, Drew. Really appreciate it.
So, Kory, I want to sort of go way back. I want to ask you sort of about your education, how you got started. You've got a really interesting background. I understand you went to the University of Manitoba, graduated with a bachelor's degree in electrical and computer engineering. So talk to me about how has your engineering background played into your business ventures?
I think over the years, I've had various business ventures where we were producing technical products. So the product development portion was really clearly a benefit early on, and more so towards where I am today in having a better understanding of digital systems architectures and e-commerce. And generally overall, I think in just guiding data-driven decision-making within our organization is something that's really important for me too.
And it's so fascinating that you have this really technical background, and we're going to talk about that a lot throughout this conversation. I want to sort of go to the ideation of Vejii. Talk to me about, where did the idea of Vejii come from? Was it something you always had in mind, or were you struck by some sort of an inspiration?
So I started my transition towards a plant-based diet many years ago. And even at that stage, eliminating meat from your diet was a lot harder than it is today, because you just did not have, you did not have the same amount of selection and variety available, and very easy ways to replace common parts of your meals and your diet on a regular basis. Sorry, Drew. So really, Vejii was born out of the need for greater accessibility. And as a person that has a family with 3 kids that are all living a plant-based diet, we've always found that we need to go to 2 to 3 different stores just to get everything that we need. And so we wanted to create a platform where consumers can have a lot greater and easier access to a large selection of plant-based and sustainable living products.
Yeah, and amazing that you're connecting that to your own personal life and that big problem that you're trying to solve. It's super admirable, and I love that. And with some other vegan retailers, other vegan commerce sites, kind of in the mix now in today's world. tell me a little bit about, what makes Veggie stand out from that and what makes them different.
Sure. I think the big difference is that Veggie is not designed to be a typical e-commerce platform where we have one warehouse with inventory and we get orders and ship it out. What we're trying to do is create an ecosystem of plant-based and sustainable companies. And we have a multi-vendor system with a vendor portal that actually allows a lot of early stage startups and innovative plant-based food brand companies, or even companies in the sustainable living product space, on board directly to our site. So that's a different situation where vendors can come on, connect to our site, add their products, control discount codes, promotions for the brands on the site, and gain access to a national audience through our platform. So I think that's one of the key differentiators. And then our distributed logistics network allows us to deliver consistent orders quickly to our customers on a regular basis. So I think the platform model is what is the biggest differentiator. And since we launched the site in November of 2020, we've already had over 140 individual brands in a range of product categories come directly to us to list on the site. So all of those brands are, in one form or another, are being onboarded to the site, and a lot of local brands as well. And something that's really important, I think, is supporting local startups and brands. And we have the ability to geofence traffic on a regional basis. So our different distribution centers we have can have a unique offering for the customers in the area around that center.
Wow. So, and I didn't know that about your platform, which is really inspiring. You guys are almost, turning your platform into somewhat of an incubator for these great up and coming brands, giving them leverage to your tools and your data and your customers. Super inspiring. There was a great article with you guys in the Globe and Mail about how you're leveraging data and how you're using it to help steer this consumer experience. So, something that's evident about you is your passion for technology, for innovation. So talk to me a little bit about how you're leveraging that great technology and data to bring the plant-based lifestyle to consumers.
So I think that, like you mentioned data is really critical, right? And understanding buying behavior on site and data analytics is really critical for us in order to provide the best experience possible for our customers. Mm-hmm. And so we leverage data analytics to provide a better user experience and a better shopping experience for consumers. But we also leverage that same data analytics and buying behavior to understand which product categories and brands are trending. And then we can partner with, invest, or acquire brands that are emerging in some of the new categories that we're seeing on the site, like plant-based seafood, for example, is a really quickly growing trend in the plant-based food space. And so that gives us really early stage insights into trends in products and categories that I think is extremely valuable to the company and helps us provide the better experience for our customers.
I want to ask you something. This might be a tough question because you come across so many great brands and products, but what's one plant-based product you've come across recently that got you really excited? I'd love to know.
You know what? There's a brand that's a BC-based brand of vegan cheese that's really amazing called Spread'em. And I'm probably the biggest cheerleader for that brand, to be honest, because vegan dairy, plant-based dairy has been an area for quite a while that was sort of lagging behind plant-based meat. And it was quite hard for a long time to get really good quality cheese alternatives that tasted really good as well. And that brand's very clean ingredient. It's a clean ingredient brand, cashew-based cheeses. It's on shopveggie.com now on the Canadian site. And that's we'll serve that to flexitarians or non-vegans, and they're always just blown away by the quality and the taste. So that's really been one brand for me that I've really had a great experience with, and we recently launched on the site as well. That was a really exciting moment for me.
Cool. And we have comments coming in from Instagram, people watching this live. We've got a comment here coming in from an Instagram user. You've got so many interesting products that I've never seen in normal supermarkets. I think that's a really cool point. Talk to me about the difference between, what you're building versus somebody going to a supermarket and why you're able to offer this selection.
So although, a lot of supermarkets now have really expanded their offering of plant-based products, you're never going to get the amount of variety in a small section in a grocery store that you might from our site today. And, we try to carry all the really well-known brand names that everybody loves, but also really focusing on some of the more niche and boutique brands that people might not have tried or know about, and trying to introduce those products to our customers.
And so I want to give you sort of an opportunity. This is something I know you're passionate about. A lot of people consider a plant-based lifestyle mainly for health reasons, for their lifestyle. But one thing that is becoming more evident is the massive environmental implications of a plant-based diet. So could you speak to our listeners a bit about some of your thoughts on, why switching to a plant-based diet is good for the environment?
I think that, like you said, there's different categories of people that get into, eating plant-based, and it can be for your health and your wellness or sports performance, or, the ethics of it as well. I think the environmental impact is really significant. There's a lot of data now to show that, commercial agriculture is one of the largest contributors to our global carbon footprint. So just transitioning to a plant-based diet, and supporting brands that are taking real sustainability initiatives, I think is really impactful for consumers. And the overall sector, as well, I think is just gaining a lot of traction. And it's gotten past the point of, I think what could be considered a fad. And one of the key indicators that I like to point to is that when you see large-scale meat production companies that are starting to expand their category offering, they're really trying to stay ahead of the curve because they can identify and understand that this is a growing trend. And with really new and innovative technologies coming out, like cell-cultured meat, for example, those could have a massive impact on the meat industry in general. And I just think that there's too much traction for anybody to deny at this point.
Absolutely. And you see some really big players entering the space, and that's very, very telling, as you mentioned. And I think you're definitely onto something, and offering the massive selection you do to give that value to consumers is critical. We love to talk about adversity and resilience here from great entrepreneurs like yourself on the Wellness Hub. So maybe let our listeners know, what are some of the speed bumps, the obstacles that you overcame on the way to building this great platform?
I think that, some of the speed bumps and obstacles are in building the distribution network and fine tuning your advertising plan to scale. We've been very fortunate in developing a lot of really strong relationships and direct relationships with brands. So I think for me, and part of, like, not to go back to sort of the concept around sustainability, like for us as a company that's shipping product across the country, obviously, like, we're very well aware that our biggest environmental impact is shipping and packing materials, right? And so those I see are roadblocks, and for us to really focus on our key areas in helping to reduce our own carbon footprint by regionalizing distribution centers, so we can reduce the amount of time in transit for a product to get to a consumer, and also reduce the amount of packing materials that go into the process too. So that's something that we're actively working on now.
And you guys do such a great job of engaging with your community, the users of your site, your customers. So, I want to know sort of, what has been the response from these consumers to this relatively new platform you've created? Do you feel like you're really creating that lasting impact in people's lives, and what's that like for you?
So I think that you have your vegans, people that are already on plant-based diets, that are just happy to see a really large selection of product and fast delivery times on its own. And like at our company, like, we're very customer focused. So everything that we do and every decision that we make, right from an ad you see through to the checkout on the site, is done with the customer in mind. So focusing really heavily on customer service, independent third-party reviews are really important as well. We're already seeing a lot of traction in terms of repeat purchases. And we also recently announced the acquisition of an online competitor called veganessentials.com, which has been around for 15 years and was voted Vegan Grocery Store of the Year for 15 years in a row by Veg News magazine. And so, Veggie, like, paired with Vegan Essentials, really has a lot of brand loyalty and following, and Vegan Essentials has established a really strong core base of, organic search traffic and loyal customers as well. So it's all about customer stickiness and providing a great user experience and the right selection, to have people continue to come back and repurchase. And that's what we're continuing to see. Our average basket price is increasing and our reorder rates are increasing as well.
Awesome. I love to see that traction. And as we talk about, this is still you guys are seeing so much success early on. It's a relatively, new venture, having started just in, November 2020 launching. So you launched in the throes of a pandemic. So talk to me about what that was like, and what you see sort of coming out now into the future for Veggie. What does the future hold?
So I think that, across the board, the pandemic actually really was had a positive impact on online grocery purchasing in general. I think a lot more people started buying groceries online, and that was something that was beneficial. I don't think necessarily that's going to change. I think that growth is going to continue. And in the future for Veggie, we really see the company expanding into new product categories. Like, for example, plant-based vegan leather, fashion goods and accessories. You're seeing a lot of new companies, well-known brands, luxury brands coming out with plant-based alternatives. And so we really want to communicate that, we're not just a vegan grocery store. We're much more than that. And we're already working to expand product categories and support sustainable brands through the platform as well, and focusing on expansion into these other areas.
And so I want to, kind of ask you something a little bit more personal on the business side. I mean, you've shared so much great information about this strategy and what you're executing on. It's so impressive. I want to ask you, and you're someone who started multiple businesses, been involved in huge projects. What's been the most valuable lesson you've learned about life or business or anything in between in your time as CEO?
Well, I think that one really important thing as an entrepreneur, having gone through lots and been involved in so many different businesses, is learning from your mistakes. Or you don't want to be repeating the same mistakes over and over again, and that's something that requires a level of self-awareness and lack of ego, I think, to do that. So being real with yourself is really important. And also maintaining a solid work-life balance, I think, is also really important, because, I've been in situations where it was such a hard grind that you push yourself to the limits, and then you're not going to perform well in your role, right? Yeah. So I've really, over the last year, started to understand how, personal health and wellness and a good routine can impact your overall demeanor, your performance, and everything, every aspect of your work and home life.
And so I want to touch on that a little bit more, that sort of balance. We talk to a lot of like really busy and high performing and CEOs and entrepreneurs just like yourself. So, what is your favorite form of self-care? What are some tips and what are some things that you personally do to help yourself unwind and keep yourself from going into that burnout mode?
So I think, like having the right amount of sleep is really important. I wake up at 4:30 every morning and work out before I get the day started, because I spend time with my kids afterwards before I get into my work day. So those are really important things for me. I'm also, a self-proclaimed amateur chef also. So I absolutely.
Oh, okay.
I love cooking vegan food. And I really like to think that eating a plant-based diet, like, we have in no way ever really sacrificed the diversity, quality, or like excitement in the food that we eat. So I put a lot of heart into the food that I cook, and nothing makes me happier than cooking a plant-based meal for somebody that is a flexitarian, or somebody that just to show them that it's not as basic as you think, and you can cook foods from all types of diverse ethnic foods, and even basic stuff, from hamburgers and hot dogs right through to, Asian food. And that's something that I love doing. And unfortunately, fortunately, as business has been growing, I've had less time to cook. I try to on the weekends for sure.
Well, I got to ask you now, because, here on the Well, every single conversation is different and wonderful. We have one question that is always the same. And now I got to ask you, given this newfound discovery about your chef skills, what is your favorite go-to meal, either to eat or to cook, or both?
I love vegan Chinese food.
Interesting.
I'll make like hot and sour soup,
wow.
Stir fries. I'll make seitan dishes and stuff too. So yeah, that's my favorite.
Awesome. We'll have to stay tuned for your YouTube channel upcoming. Cook with Kory. I just came up with that. Feel free to use that. I want to ask a little bit about the business side. Being a CEO, it's an interesting role, right? You can be sort of thrust into it at an early stage if you're a new founder. It means different things to different people. So, in your opinion, what makes a great CEO? Where do your strengths lie?
I really think, and this is going to sound a little bit cliche, but passion, patience, and persistence are the three most important qualities. In my opinion, you have to be very passionate about what you're doing and believe in what you're doing to be successful with it. And you have to have patience to allow the business to grow and work through all the speed bumps along the way and learn from all those. And you have to be very, very, very persistent as well. Mm-hmm. And so that you can stick things out and have that level of resiliency. And so, in addition, I think those are all things that sort of lead into an individual leadership style for an executive or a CEO. But those are the key areas I think that really, offer the most value for somebody, and would never recommend anyone to take on a project that they weren't personally vested or passionate about in their industry.
Amazing, Kory. Thank you for sharing that. We've got, we have a lot of, sort of would-be entrepreneurs that maybe have an idea. They listen to this show to learn from people like yourself, and maybe they're not sure where to go to take that plunge. So what would your advice be to someone who thinks they have a great idea and they're just not sure about where to do to take that plunge? What would your advice be to someone like that?
I think that if you have a great idea, you need to do your research. You need to build out a model for the business, and not just a business model. But one thing that I've also really spent a lot of time and realized more than ever the importance is building a comprehensive financial model that allows you to take your concept and put it into a model where you can feed different types of inputs and variables and circumstances to try to figure out, based on your margin, your conversion rates, sort of what your ad spend is going to look like, and really map it out. I think that, just having a great idea is one thing, but planning it and walking yourself through the financials and the operations and costing and capital requirements are really important.
Yeah, and I like that you touched on that, because there's a lot of information out there for entrepreneurs, and I'm acknowledging that there's a value to just starting and getting some work done and getting your feet wet. But I like that you touched on some of that, a little bit of that restraint, where it's okay, well, let's vet the idea. How far have you gone into this? There are pieces that are going to be important for you to understand before you really go crazy with this thing and sink your own money or your own time into it. So I like that you showed that. Shows your technical background, and I think our listeners will appreciate that. Absolutely. We've got some questions pouring in here. We're going to take some audience questions here. Thank you to our followers for these great questions coming in. We're going to start here from Instagram. So many vegan products have higher price points than their conventional protein options. What are your thoughts on that, and do you have any tips for the consumer?
I think that that is changing for sure. I know that a lot of the larger plant-based food companies are very focused on reaching price parity with their meat alternatives. And one thing I think to consider as well is when you're looking at these types of processed foods as well, you really need to look at the ingredients. And I think the next sort of trend in the space is going to be towards more whole plant-based products. And early stages, it was try to make something taste exactly like a burger or exactly like a real hot dog at the sacrifice of the quality of the ingredients. And so I'm seeing a lot more companies now that are focused on clean ingredient labels. And so I think that there may be some products that might be pricier than their meat alternatives still. But I would really recommend, looking online. There's so many recipes online, and we have a lot on our site as well. And really try to, if you're looking to transition, at least to some extent, to a plant-based diet, the easiest thing that you can do is take the low-hanging fruit. So any of the meals throughout the week that you would be consuming with meat in it, go find the best alternative that you can get and just replace it. And that's a great starting point. That's sort of how I see it in terms of providing access to these products for people. The simplest way to get started is to replace what you're doing now, and then you can start expanding and creating more diverse meals for yourself.
That's a great suggestion. This is a great question coming in from Instagram. Are you actively marketing to non-vegans as well? Lucky that I came across Veggie today through UpMeals. I wish more people knew about your service. I think we're well on the way to achieving that mission. That's a great question about the marketing.
Yeah, we absolutely recognize that the general market for flexitarians is quite a lot bigger than the market just for vegans, and a lot of competitor sites that we've seen are very orientated towards a vegan audience, like Vegan Essentials as an example. But we're running the two sites in parallel, and with Veggie, the goal really is to cater to that broader market and the flexitarian market. And for me, in terms of like my goals, too, I think that it's a bigger win for me to sell a Beyond Burger to a flexitarian than somebody that's already vegan. And so we really do try to cater to that market. And if you notice on our website, there's really not a lot of like really vegan orientated content. Some people have a negative association with vegans in general, and we don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable buying on the site, and we really want the site to feel like an inclusive environment for everybody to shop at.
Thank you so much. And we've got a question coming in from YouTube now. Another great question. Our listeners are very engaged tonight. What are the hurdles that remain for widespread adoption of a plant-based lifestyle, in your opinion?
I think cost is one thing, and further education around the health benefits, I think, is really important. And, as an example, in the past, if you were looking into going plant-based, or before plant-based was even a trend or a term, if you were looking to go try, living a vegan lifestyle, it would have been quite a bit more challenging. and so I think that with all of the accessibility that we have today, you have the opportunity to transition a lot smoother than you would otherwise, if it was several years ago.
Mm. And we've got a question here now coming in as well. I know, Kory, you're sort of in the BC, the Okanagan area, but your top 3 plant-based restaurants that you've tried in the local area here.
Okay, so there's not as many in Kelowna. But there's 2 great restaurants here. One's called Naked Cafe, which is really like vegan comfort food, and it's amazing. And I love a restaurant here locally called Frankie We Salute You that has an amazing creative menu that's just very dynamic. And I was recently in Tofino, and if you get a chance to go to a restaurant called Bravocados there, that's excellent as well. There's just an increasing number of restaurants coming up with great quality food.
Fantastic. Great tips. Write those down to our listeners. Next time you're in Kelowna or Tofino, those are hot tips from the man himself. Kory, thank you so much. Where can our listeners go to learn more about you and this great platform that you've built?
So encourage everybody to check out shopveggie.com. When you go on the site, you'll be asked if you want to go onto the US or the Canadian site. One really exciting thing too for anybody in the Vancouver area is that as of next week, we're going to be starting same-day delivery for the whole greater Vancouver area as well. So check out the selection. We've expanded the offering quite a bit recently on the Canadian side. So if you're in the Vancouver area and you order before 9 a.m., you're going to get your delivery before 8 p.m.
Amazing. Fantastic execution. Tons of value for our listeners. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, Kory, with all you got going on to join us here tonight. Thank you so much, and we'll hope you'll come back and give us an update again soon.
Thanks for having me.
Wow. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. I absolutely love talking to passionate people like Kory. I think what really amazes me about leaders like Kory is their ability to seemingly look into the future and carve a roadmap for success. Having followed Kory's career, been able to witness the success that he's created, I have no doubt that Kory's plant-based revolution will be yet another notch in his belt. I think we often hear that old saying, which tells us to follow our passion and success will follow. I think Kory is really a living example of that. And at its core, the reason why passion pushes us to success is that it fuels our work with a genuine love and desire to be great. We're less willing to compromise for the things that we're passionate about, and we're willing to take no for an answer. Passion brings out those qualities of clarity, determination, perseverance that are so crucial to great achievement. I'm grateful for people like Kory who embody those attributes every day and show us what it takes to achieve and exceed your goals. I think in reality, passion and alignment of values are most important when it comes to getting you through the harder days of being a leader. On those days where you have to make those difficult decisions, when you encounter an obstacle and you're forced to pivot, when you have to put in those extra hours to see your vision through, but without fail, the guiding light that gets you through them is unbridled passion and belief in what you are doing. So the lesson really here today is that passion is your fuel. Following your passion is where your fulfillment lies. And for some people like Kory, that passion just so happens to align with their career. For you, it may not have to. Your passion doesn't have to be the driving force of your existence. It can simply be what makes you happy and brings you peace. Whatever it may be, your passion is really worth finding. You may not know what it is yet, and that's okay. But finding that thing that brings out your full potential and effortlessly demands everything of you is really part of the joy of self-discovery. So my question for you today is really a simple one. Do you know what drives you? Do you know where your passions lie? And how do you incorporate it into your life? Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. If you'd like to see more great conversations like this, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, on Instagram, or LinkedIn at UpMeals. We will see you next Wednesday evening right here on the Wellness Hub for another great conversation. I'm Drew Munro. Until then, take care and be well.